I used to be ashamed of my past and unsure if I'd make it to where I was going. But I knew one thing was for certain: we don't end up where we're going on accident. I've also learned that we can't erase the past or hide from it, but we can learn from it and pass it on to others. So who am I? I'm the definition of a bootstrap girl. Someone who's made the hard choices to pick themselves back up and make something of themselves. And I'm not the only one. My name is Danisha. I'm a mom, a wife, a professor, advocate, queen of my own path, who's overcome abuse, foster care, homelessness, and raising 5 siblings on my own at the age of 24. And eventually I got a PhD. But something that I learned is that I don't know everything. So here on my show, we're going to be bringing in people who know the things that we don't know. Let's get in and learn on the Dr. Danisha Keating Show.
Hey, you guys. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the American Dream, and we're going to be talking about why poverty and the American Dream don't work. And I literally found a paper, I don't know if you can see that, from 2012 called The American Dream, and I want to read it to you. Holy moly, when you find something that you wrote when I don't even know, like I was old. I'm 35 now, so now I'm like, oh, I was so young back then. So now I can say this. Okay, so this is what I wrote. I said, what is the American dream? That question brings a lot of different answers. Sitting down with a few of the professors here at the college, they were asked what was their American dream and could they attain it in the economy that we live in today. Now, mind you, at 2012 there was a recession going on, so we were in a recession situation. So anyway, they explain living the American dream is about being able to live in one's means and not have to struggle. That one has the money to afford what they need and what they want. Each professor had different opinions on their American dream and what they see it as now. The first professor was an African American female who put herself through school. She made oh wow, guys, grammar, spelling errors. She put herself into college and made sure that the community she had around her was filled with possibilities. The professor said that she believes in one can still accomplish and exceed in the world we live in now, but you have to fight harder and you have to put all your energy into what you want to succeed. The professor said that you cannot wait around for someone to hand you something. Everyone has to fight and fend for themselves. Without hard work, nobody truly appreciates what they have, but also without working for yourself, you don't know what you want in the end. The professor believed that the American dream is still reachable. Let me just do this. You guys, I'm so much smarter than my phone. Okay. Here it is. She believes that the American dream is still reachable, but it is simply harder to reach, and each individual has the dream that they're trying to reach. The second professor was a Latin American male. He was a professor for econ. He believes that the American dream has died out and that we simply hold to false dream to keep ourselves motivated. But all that is all we do. We work. He stated that because the economy is getting harder, the school tuition is going up, gas prices are higher, food prices are higher, and less families are able to send their children off to get a better education. The professor believes that because the American dream is dying, less people are trying. He stated that the government wants to have this separate economic classes to hold a balance. So basically saying like they want high they want rich people, they want middle class, and they want poor people because it keeps people separate and it holds a balance for the American population. But the middle class does not exist anymore. This is in 2012, y'all. The middle class does not exist because you were either poor or you were either rich. Everyone who is not rich is struggling with huge debts or not making enough. He went over the unemployment rates and talked about how the government expected to get worse. With more people out of work and school tuition being the highest it has ever been, less adults want to return to school to complete a degree. It is not only money that we put into school, but time that we could be working. Okay. Without having an upper, middle, and lower class, it is harder for people to dream of a rational dream that we will keep them motivated long enough. They realize that the rational part of the dream was indeed the time and money that they would have to put into their future. The most Americans believe that if you work hard, you move up, and thus leaving the middle class to be pushed out of sight because people are worried about the time frame they need to put aside to provide for their families. This is my own statement. I do believe that the American dream can exist. It differs from person to person. I do agree that it is harder to obtain now, but for someone to get out of the life they are in, they're going to need help. Nobody can get somewhere by themselves. Everyone needs help at some point, and always working away drains someone. The American dream comes with a cost, sometimes meaning not being part of being around your family as much, or simply giving up some kind of long-term goal you may have had for yourself. Y'all, in 2012, when I wrote this, I was living in my car. I was in community college. I was attempting to try to get through all of what I was in. I literally, when I say poverty and American dream cannot coexist, like it doesn't work when you're like in poverty. It's not just financial poverty. There's a poverty mindset. Like I am not going to sit here it when I'm gonna kind of backtrack before I say what I'm gonna say. So in 2012, I literally was living in my car. I was house hopping at this point. I had lived in a lot of different places at this point, and I knew I needed a way out. So this was actually a requirement for me to go to these events for my class and write just basically articles on this and turn it into my class for my English class. And I loved my professor. This is the same class or the same professor that I had that I learned and read through the Glass Castle. So this class meant a lot to me. I feel like I'm being really loud. Sorry, my daughter's sleeping. So I really looked at the situation and I was like, okay, if other people can make this happen, maybe I can too. That's why I entered into school. That's why I went to college. That's why I was like, I need to get out of where I was at. Now I lived in financial poverty, emotional poverty, okay, mindset poverty, where financially, literally, like I grew up in a situation where like we didn't have water, gas, electricity for weeks at a time because my parents couldn't afford to pay it. Now, our situation probably could have been fixed if my both of my parents had worked because there only was one income and it was on purpose. Like it was one of those things that it was like we're purposely not putting them in school, we're purposely not having them in public school, we're going to homeschool them, but then we're not going to educate them, like we're just not going to do it. Completely jacked up, by the way. Don't do it. If you're homeschooling, please homeschool. If you're putting your kids in school, please support your kids and make sure they get their education. Education is super important. But there were a lot of times growing up into high school that I wasn't getting even food for a couple of days. Like I wouldn't eat for 3 to 4 days because there was no money to buy food. This was a consistent, like, this was just how it was. This wasn't a, oh my God, well, let me go get more business and then we're going to be eating. It wasn't a temporary thing. This was like how I grew up. Okay. This is decades long. Um, Parents were always asking for money from people, or like we were going to like swap meets to try to get things for free or to get things for super super cheap. We would literally drive 2 hours places to try to get cheaper vegetables or fruit or meat that usually was molded, and we would just cut the mold out. And that level of poverty, like that level. I don't remember how many pink slip bills we would get consistently, where my mom or my dad would go to the places and we would fight with the person on the other side to say, like, you need to turn the gas on, you need to turn the water back on. We would pay the one bill that it was like 3 bills behind. Like we would do that consistently every single month. We never were ahead of bills. We were never on time with bills. We were never up to speed on bills. We were always significantly behind. And again, I really firmly believed that if both of my parents worked, it would not have been that bad. I really believe that. I really, really still do. It would not have been that bad. At no point did we think or talk about moving outside of California. We always have lived in California. We just moved to places that were cheaper to live in California. But we never talked about leaving to get better jobs or anything like that. There was just a lot of stubbornness that was coming on, and it was a mindset thing. Like we would collect bottles and cans, and we would do those things, and then we would go take them in, and we would exchange it for money. But that money never went toward food or bills or gas. It literally would go toward soda for my parents. It would go toward, I remember like my parent um, would get like a bonus from work for Christmas. And instead of that going toward food, which it should have gone toward food, they would put it toward like my mom would put it toward clothes, or my dad would like buy some sort of gaming system, or he would put it toward like this thing for his business. And it was never putting things toward what it needed to go to. And there was no thought process of like, okay, maybe it's time to shut the business down, maybe, and which wasn't bringing in any money. It was actually sucking the life out of my parents financially. So there was this mindset that was deeply rooted over the financial issues. Yes, when I got into high school, foster care happened. And then from 18 to 24, I was homeless and I was living in my car. By this point of college, I literally like, I would go to Chipotle and I would order the burrito. I would double wrap it and then I would cut it into three. And that would be my lunches for 3 days. But that would be the only meal that I ate, unless someone bought food for me in college, which was rare, or I would go to work where I would work. We would get free meals and then I would eat there. So, guys, that's like literally how I lived, because it was like I had no money. I only ever had one credit card and I immediately maxed it out on just gas to get to work and school because I wasn't making enough. Like, there was this mindset that was bigger and deeper than the financial issue that was standing in front of me. And it was a poverty mindset. It was like, I don't have. So when I got, I would use that money on anything and everything. Like, y'all, like it was bad. Um, I want to like the poverty mindset, I think, was so much bigger for me to fight through than the financial issues have ever been. It was that I have to go out and get mine now. I don't have time to waste, but then I would blow it on things I didn't need. I would think that I needed something, or like I would get like this really weird itch. Like, I'm going to just be honest. It was like, oh, I got $50. I have this itch to go spend it. That's a mindset. That's not a real. I didn't need to spend it. And then I would always go into my room and like I would have like the same, literally, guys, like I'm not even kidding. I had like the same eyeshadow palette from the same freaking company, because my mindset was like, I need it. I need it. I need it. I need it. I have to have it. Um, when you sometimes live in poverty, you have a mindset of like, it needs to be mine. But I'm like, it comes with a lot of negativity and a lot of emotions. We often have this conversation. Like, I have been amongst so many people who are like, the American dream is false. It doesn't exist. It doesn't happen. But even in 2012, we were having this conversation, and I was sitting back and I'm like, that is when in that class, I remember feeling so discouraged by the professor who's like, it doesn't exist anymore. We're basically we're living just to work. But then this other person is like, no, it still exists, but what that looks like is different for every single person, and it can happen. Like, what my American dream is different than what their American dream was. And I literally looked at that day and I was like, I have a choice to make, to either let this discourage me or let this motivate me. And that is a part of the mindset of poverty, is like, do I walk around being like, I'm just stuck here, I just can't get out of this, I'm too poor to get out? Like, are we fighting for the American dream? And something that was hitting me, I was sitting here and I was thinking through this concept, and I ran into this paper like months ago, and I was like, oh, how funny that I'm on this side of things, because in 2012, literally 12 years ago, my brain comprehended that in order to get out of the situation of living paycheck to six paychecks over here, that's not even here, like I'm not even living paycheck to paycheck, I'm literally like, this paycheck is already gone by the time it hits my bank, and so is the next five. like that's a horrible way to live, right? um but I knew that there was so much more than the financial. There was something in me that recognized like, the way that I grew up doesn't have to continue to happen in my future. And there's so many movies on it and there's so many things, but what I think we do sometimes with this. So first off, I still believe the American dream works and is real. I'm living it. Being the fact that I was in 33 different homes from 18 to 24, I was in foster care, I came from poverty, I came from where my family came from, to where, eating fruit and vegetables that had mold on it, and still like spaghetti noodles and like things that were like completely outdated and should never have been eaten, to now being in middle class because of the work that I've put into it, the education that I've put into it, but also the hard work of like finding what I'm good at and my purpose and all of this other stuff. I now have two things meshing to say, now you get to go forward and live this dream. Now, here's the deal. You could be so educated and still living in poverty because you're not changing your mindset. You could still have all this education, all of this debt, and still be in a lower class situation or in poverty because you have not moved forward to change it. There might be some things that are causing it, and I don't know your story, so I cannot speak into that. But what I have seen from people who stay stuck is that I have watched friends of mine tell me their situations, like their how they grew up and stuff, and it was like, oh well, we're in poverty because when my parents make money, they go and gamble it away. But my parents have like a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and they're, they make okay money. They make okay money for our family, but they blow it. This is a mindset. This is a mindset, you guys. This is not where we sit back and we say, well, I'm just in this situation to be in this situation. There are so many situations that we could walk away from and say, I'm going to start thinking differently and being differently. And what I have found myself, I'm going to speak for myself because I can only speak from my experience, is that I sit here and when I look at the situation that I have been in, where I have literally lived in my car, the thing that got me through that was knowing that I could get out of it if I worked hard and I went in a direction that was going to be good for me. I had to get the education to where I wanted to go, but that also opened up doors that were different for me. But I had to work for it. What comes naturally to other people does not always come naturally to me. So for this, it's like maybe it's time for you to pick yourself up by your bootstraps, where you are just literally just sitting in the crap of what's happening around you, and you have to make the decision to get up and start putting the pieces together. And then when you realize that, hey, this piece is not working in my life, to research and to go out and to start asking people who are out of that situation to say, how did you get over there? And I think that is where there are so many people. Like I worked with somebody once who literally told me they were not a good employee. I was a manager over them, and they were like, I'm not working, I refuse to work. And I'm like, hey, like that's why we're paying you, is to come in and do your job. Like you're not just going to get paid if you are not going to do your job. And they said back to me, I don't need to work because I'm going to be marrying rich. And they were dead serious. I'm going to marry rich and I'm just here because my parent is making me be here. And I was like, then you're going to get your butt fired because you have to do your job. There's standards that you have to have. And there are some people who look at the situation and go, there, I'm waiting for things to be handed to me. I'm not going to work for it. I'm not going to try for it. I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to actually make my situation worse by being lazy. And then I'm going to actively destroy the opportunities that I get. That's a mindset, y'all. Like that is us looking at our situation and saying, I don't care if this goes up in flames. I'm not going to try to put the fire out. We live in a country that literally you can make money off of selling hair ties, bracelets, necklaces. I know a ton of businesses. They're super cute, by the way. I know a ton of businesses that make like these beautiful necklaces, handmade in America by people who are here, not something, not a company that's like mass producing them. Like there are individuals who are literally making these necklaces at home with their families, and they are sending them out and making good money. Is it hard work? Heck yes. Do they have all the answers? Heck no. But what they did was they said, I want to do something. I really feel passionate about this. I think I can sell this. And then they go out and they figure out how to do it, and they do it. And they use social media to promote it. And I'm like, whoa. So what we have is that we live in this society where we could literally have our own business. We can go out and literally start our own business tomorrow and say, okay, now I'm going to start promoting myself and saying, hey, I have a business, come to me. I'm making this. And then we push it out. We make money off of cakes, cupcakes, my favorite, cookies. Like literally, y'all, like we coach people through like therapy And through like these businesses are wild to me because I'm like, wow, this is crazy. So we have therapy, we have necklaces, we have cookies, we have cupcakes, we have cakes that are my favorite, pastas, foods, like things that's like crazy, nails, stick on nails, glasses, like different frames for your glasses, shirts that we could all literally, okay, y'all, I ordered a circuit the other day to make stickers. I can literally sell stickers and like make money off of it. Now, here's the difference is that as someone who's going to be a go-getter or someone who's not going to be a go-getter is the person who's going to be a go-getter is going to use the tools like social media, Google, YouTube and all of that stuff to see how to do this and then to promote themselves and go. Versus the other person who might buy the circuit and then they're going to go, well, I'm too afraid to post. Like, well, I don't know how to make that. Oh, I didn't even set it up. That is a mindset. But let me tell you, like, we live in a place where we have the digital marketing ability at our fingertips. Wow. Like we live in a country where we don't have to go, like we could literally choose. I could go and order this cup on Amazon, or I can call a friend who makes it as a small business and say, I would love for you to make this design for me and make it custom. Like, that's wild to me. And we sit here sometimes and we go, the American dream is dying. It doesn't exist. It is harder every single year to go out and yes, like it's hard, but pick your heart. Are you working 9 to 5 for someone else and going, wow, I make a salary or I make an hourly wage and it's not good. I work 9 to 5 for somebody else who keeps cutting my hours, cutting my benefits, cutting my emotions down. I hate what I do. And it like, we choose our hard, we choose that hard, or we choose the business entrepreneurial side hard. But here's the thing is that I've heard so many people who just go, it doesn't work. And I said, when did you try? And they're like, well, I tried with a company to sell their product. And I'm like, that's not your own business. You selling somebody else's product is not your own business. If that company, and this is something that why I love being an entrepreneur and being able to decide what my services are, how I help people, how I go out and be, is that at any point if I were to say I don't want to do that service anymore, I don't have to. If I don't want to sell that sticker anymore, I don't have to. If I don't want to build that shirt anymore, I don't have to. But if a company does that to me, if I'm working for a company and they say, hey, we just let go of 6 people, you're taking their job on, I can't say no, or I risk losing my job. I don't have leverage. I didn't have leverage. I laugh about that because I think of all the jobs that literally up until 2020, I firmly believed that you needed to be on somebody's payroll. I would not have chosen the entrepreneurial life. It chose me, yo. Like, let's be real. So in 2020, okay, so up until 2020, so from the time I got out of high school in 2008 to the time of 2020, I had worked for somebody else. I did not want to or ever see myself wanting to own my own business because I was like, it's too hard. It's not guaranteed. I have several friends who are in different companies where they're like, girl, you would be a great salesperson for us. You would kick booty doing this. You would seriously make so much money. And I was like, no, thank you, because it's commission. No, thank you, because it's based off of like a ranking. No, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. And my friends were like, Danisha, you have this entrepreneurial side to you. When you're passionate about something, you just go all in. And I'm like, yes, cool beans. Bye. See you later. I got to go get the salary. I got to go get the hourly. And then in 2020, I lost my job. That was heartbreaking. It was my dream job. And I loved doing it. I literally would guide people through their degree plans and walk them through what was the best route for them. Was it a best route for them to go into education? Was it the best route for them to start a business? I loved being able to sit and hear people's stories. And then I lost my job because they did a mass layoff and my heart like broke. And so then I started working in hospitals doing staffing and literally like just staffing hospitals during COVID. And then I graduated in 2021. And then I decided to launch my own business coaching people to make some side money. And it exploded because I was actually really good at it because that's what I did for 8 years. And then it's turned into coaching and speaking and foster care conversations and writing my own books and all of this other stuff that I never saw coming. And when I say the entrepreneur life chose me, it was because I was in a mass layoff and I had no other choice but to say, what can I do with my talents and my giftings? And how can I make some money off of this? not to take advantage of people, but just to offer a service and get paid in return. So that way, me and my husband weren't struggling as much financially. And then it has turned into a business that I do full time. I get to love and coach people, walk them through, sit with them, listen to them, help guide them through dissertations, help guide them through their educational journeys, help speak to former foster youth and give them like a story to be like inspired by. I get to write my books, and like I do all of this on my own. Like I don't work with anybody. I don't have an agent. I don't have a PR team. I don't have any of that. Um, and I've learned so much. But here was the difference is that other people literally along the way has said like, Danisha, you're stupid, literally told me this, like, you're stupid for not going and trying to get another job. I also teach on the side, by the way. Like, I do have, like, I teach, I'm a professor as well. But people have said like, you're so dumb for not going and getting a full-time adjunct faculty role. But I'm like, look, I would be actually capped at a professor role. Like, there are so many things I wouldn't be able to do if I taught full-time at a university that I get to do that I enjoy today. I love teaching people. I love being a professor. I love being an entrepreneur. And it's something that if you asked me in 2012 if I would have had my own business, I would have laughed you out. People told me, they're like, girl, you need to do something because you're so freaking good at what you do. Imagine if you didn't have the caps of the university. And I'm like, yeah, no, salary or hourly. And then 2020 hit. And that's when I really realized like all I have is Google. I have tools and I have social media. I can learn from other people and kind of just figure it out as for fun. I'm not risking a lot if I'm doing this by myself. But the thing that I've learned along the way, I've been doing my own business for 4 years, is that when I have started to not do well, I don't ask questions. I don't have a lot of friends who are entrepreneurs, so I've really sought out through social media, finding people who are doing what I want to do, in the sense of like, not exactly like my job, but like helping people. So if they're a coach on a different level or a different field, I learn from them. I watch them on social media. I listen to their podcasts. I join the groups that they're in and things like that. But we live in a digital age where I can Google a lot, but then there are so many things that with social media, it actually hones us in and like allows me to follow someone in New York versus like England, and I'm learning from them and their wisdom. But then there's the times that I'm just listening and I'm not asking questions. And then there's times that I don't seek out the answers and I'm like, man, that didn't work. But if I'm growing and wanting to continue to learn, I have to ask the questions. But I find that sometimes what I struggle with is being the victim versus the victor. Like I sit there and I'm like, well, this just happened to me. And then there's like, well, I can fix it though. Just like, in 2012, well, I'm homeless, but it's like, okay, but I can fix this. How am I going to fix that? I'm going to go to school. I'm going to get my education done. I'm going to get a job, but I'm also going to work at the same time. I'm going to get the experience that I need because y'all, we already know you could have a degree, but if you don't have experience, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So I understood that. And I said, okay, I need to work and I need to have the degree at the same freaking time to be able to market myself properly. But we don't ask questions. Before I even got into my PhD, I didn't end up there by accident, by the way. While I was working on my bachelor's, I was asking professors about master's programs. And then when I was in my master's program, I already knew I wanted to do a PhD. So I started asking deans and professors that I knew about PhD programs. And I was like, okay, where should I go? And the dean I worked for at the time, 4 schools back now, because I'm out of school. 4 schools back, the very, 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 very first college. Shout out Gordon, Dean Gordon. He let me sit down with him, and I asked him all my questions. And I didn't come in and go, "Here's twiddling my thumbs." I literally started Googling stuff about the programs and say, "Okay, here's the 3 schools I'm looking at. Here's the things that I noticed about the program. What do you know? Do you know these schools?" And he's like, "I actually do." And he helped me guide to the school I went to. And he's like, "This is one of the most supportive schools that I've seen. I know 4 different students who have gone through it compared to these other schools where it wasn't as supportive." But I could have even at that moment been like, well, I'm just the victim. I don't have the money for school. I don't have this. But I find when there is a will, y'all, there is a way. Like when you are willing to try, you will find the way to go. But when you are willing to sit back and just say, well, I don't know what happened, you're going to fail 100% of the time, not moving forward. Now, failure is a part of our process to growth. And I was listening to Gary Vee and Jasmine Star and Amy Porterfield talk in a podcast, and literally, like Gary is like, there are so many people who will read his new book coming out or follow him on social media, and he's like, this is what you have to do, and they won't do it. So you're going to be listening to me and you're going to be like, yeah, 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 good point, good point, good point. And then you're going to go, nah, that's on you. That's a mindset, y'all. That's a mindset that I have been trying to overcome for 4 years as a business owner. And when I really look at a hindsight, I have been trying to overcome the poverty mindset my entire life. Because I grew up in poverty and I know what poverty tastes like, I'm not willing to go back. And I was talking to my therapist about this today, and she's like, Danisha, what are you telling that inner voice when those thoughts pop up of like fear? Because fear is so crippling. And I literally have had so much anxiety over not making a dollar bill that I was like, I don't want this anymore. And like the last year has been so good for me and a blessing for me and my family that we haven't been like killing ourselves financially. Like every single bill has always been paid. There's never been a missed bill. There's never been a ding for a missed bill. There's never been there's not in the last year has not had that happen. Before that, it did because I had my daughter early and I lost a lot of business because I understand why. People had to go elsewhere to make sure that they had the support that they needed. But it hurt so much financially. And I had a choice then in 2020 and 2023 to just close the door and walk away. But what I did was I said, there has to be a better way. This can't be the end for me. And so I started looking for stuff and I ended up joining Jasmine Starr's class, and it pivoted my business. It pivoted my mindset. It helped me so freaking much that I grew because I literally had everything at my fingertips. I literally had someone I could ask questions to and learn from and absorb their knowledge. But I had a choice that I had to make. I either was going to say, I'm the victim here, poor me, I'm never going to get over this, I'm going to have to struggle for the rest of my life, and da 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 da. Or I say, you know what, I'm not going to end here and I'm going to keep going, to which allowed me as I step forward to become a victor of my situation. But I had to be willing to pick myself back up first. I had to understand I could ask questions. I had to understand that things were not going to be handed to me. I had to understand that things were not just going to be given to me, that no one was just going to hand me the money to fix the situation, that I had to actually go fix the situation, and then I had to give it time and energy. But what happens is that what we do is we start to push things off. We start to, when it gets hard, we start to give up. And we go, well, I guess the American dream doesn't work. I guess the American dream isn't as good. But then when we look around us, we see so many people who are doing things. They're happy, they're successful, they have things. And we're just like, oh, yeah, that's the anomaly. No, it's not. Y'all, like, I don't even care. I'm not even going to say sorry. I was in poverty, generational poverty in my family, foster care, homeless. Literally had people saying like, girl, I don't even know why you're trying. Like I did not have, let me tell you this, I didn't even have the grades from high school. Like my transcripts are horrible. I ended high school with a 2.6 GPA, but I had like F's and D's my senior year. My freshman year of college, my first semester, I flunked out. I had like a 1.3 or 1.6. Then I started working on my grades and getting better. But then I went the psychology route because I really started to fall in love with psychology, but I didn't pass a single freaking psychology class with more than a B. But then the rest of it was like C's and D's. Like I should not have wanted to go to the psychology route with the 4 that I took. And I went the whole bachelor's route with that, and I didn't do well. I had a 2.8 GPA after I finished my bachelor's. I had to petition to get into my master's program. I had a 2.8 from my bachelor's, and I had to petition to get into a master's. I said it twice on purpose, guys. I had to beg the school, can you give me a chance? Give me one semester. You know what they said? We're giving you 8 weeks. I asked for 16. They said, we're giving you one class, 8 weeks. Show us what you can do. While I was raising my siblings. 18 to 24, homeless, get an apartment, immediately get 5 kids put with me in a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom, 500 square foot apartment, literally trying to finish my bachelor's, go into my master's, take the class. I had 8 weeks to get it done. I ended my master's program in a year, and I had a 3.8 GPA for my master's. And then I had done my PhD in 3.5 years. It was freaking hard. And it wasn't just school, it was life. Where I came from to where I am today, I have been told over and over, yeah, but girl, you're the anomaly. It's not possible. But do you know that the people I sat and learned from were people who did it? They were the ones who said, this is what I did. This is how I got up. I started from the ground up. I had nothing. I came from nothing. If they could do it, I could do it. If I can do it, you can do it. But if you're not going to do it, you can't. You cannot complain about why my camera went off and I'm turning it back on. Don't even trip, yo. We will fix it, Jesus. Jesus is gonna fix it right now. I'm just kidding. Hold on, let me fix that. We're back. But if we're not going to sit back and recognize where we're at mentally in our mindset, we are not actually going to try to change it. We have a mindset of poverty. We also have a victim mentality. I am calling it out. We are done. If you're listening to this, you are done with that victim mentality. And you are going to decide today if you're going to move forward and try. Like, I understand how hard it is. And let me tell you, when I took 5 of my siblings in, I made $18,000 take home that year. $18,000 take home that year. And now I'm doing things I never thought I was going to do. My company is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-digit company. I teach on the side. I actually enjoy what I do. I love that I get to just do what I want and like pivot when I want to and add services when I want to and write when I want to. And no one is in control of my schedule. Like, I have learned so much happiness in the last year of what real success is. It's not about the money, but knowing that I can look back and be like, wow, where I came from, where I barely was scratching like the bottom of the barrel to where I'm at now. We moved to a city that is more expensive to be closer to family. Those are things that Danisha in 2012 would have never imagined from that conversation of the American dream. Poverty and the American dream don't work when we don't deal with the poverty mindset. That's just flat out. We don't change the dream, we change the poverty mindset. We change the mindset that we're in. We change the fact that we're thinking negatively all the time. Because here's the deal. Like, if you're going to be a negative Nancy about everything, like, that's on you. The only person who has to sit with those thoughts is you. We can walk away from the situation. We can walk away from talking to you, but you have to live in that mentality. And it's exhausting. I've been there where I just sit there and beat myself up over and over and over and over again. But if you had told me in 2012, 2009, 2005, when I was 15 years old, that I would be where I'm at today, I would be like, oh, thank God, but also like probably not believing you because it didn't seem possible. Because also too, like, I would always get really inspired by stories of like someone overcoming, someone moving to this country and making a way for themselves. But it was never easy. And if you listen to what people say, they're like, it wasn't easy. I didn't have the answers, but it is easier today to find the answers because we have phones, we have the internet. And you might be like what I was when I first started. I would go to the library to use their computer to research stuff. Go to the library, it's free. Go do it. But you have to be in control of the direction. You are in the driver's seat. Not me, not somebody else. But the reality is that when you, like this person had said, the first professor had said, is like, when you work hard for something, you appreciate what you have a lot more. When something is just handed to you, it's gone, and there's no value in that. So if someone was to hand you all the information, like Gary Vee was saying, he's like, no, you still wouldn't follow it. Because it's not about a me issue of presenting the information to you. It's a you issue of you not taking it and going and doing. So again, like, the reason the American dream doesn't work is because of your mindset. It's because of you not doing the action piece. It's because you're not taking the opportunities to be given to you. And if you've been born and raised here, it's a lot easier. There's a lot more that we have. We have normally have our birth certificate and our social security card. I did not have those because paperwork got destroyed, but there's ways to go and get it. It was a little bit harder to do as a former foster youth, but it was, there's things there now. but there's resources to help you do things. It's usually easier for us to be enrolled in school because we already have the documentation up front. It's usually easier for us because we're already here. But again, like, it's up to you. It's up to you to change it. And that is a hard truth, is that you are where you're at because of the actions that you're doing right now. You didn't, like, if you grew up the way that I did, in abuse and going into foster care, those were not your choices. But a professor told me something super important that I want to tell you, that we'll stop with and I'll leave you with. There's two things he said. He said, first, you couldn't control what happened to you before you turned 18, but you get to control where you go and how you deal with what happened to you. And the second thing he said was that in 10 years from now, if you woke up, would you be happy with the choices that you made, or would you be upset that you didn't make different ones? Those two things, when he said that, like, I just, like, I felt like my goosebumps. I felt fire in my belly, where it was like, oh my God, like, I'm in the driver's seat now. Like, I couldn't control what happened to me, but I get to control where I'm going and what I do with what happened to me. And I have a decision to make. I might not be well versed in all of those choices, but I have information to be able to go ask questions. And they might not be the right questions, but I can have a starting point. So you were in the driver's seat. You have to change the mindset. It can work for you, but are you willing to do it? Thanks for joining. And you guys leave comments. Are you willing to? Are you wanting to? What's been the hardest struggle? Let's start working on these things so that way you can move in the direction and feel like you're not just living in your past. Have a great night.